pointing to your son, and you say, well, there's your quarterback. And people are like, man, that's nepotism. His son ain't done nothing in Colorado.
They ain't nepotism, they real.
How did Shedeur Sanders leapfrog 4 or 5 other guys?
I don't look at Pro Bowls anymore. I look at all pro. I knew the collusion and all the stuff, like I said, you want to go through. You saw what Shedeur Sanders was capable of. We all knew what Shedeur Sanders was capable of.
Do play like shit and then what, you know? So I think we should celebrate it, but we do got to keep it in perspective that, Myles Garrett was sitting on his sideline. Myles Garrett and Shedeur actually had a conversation.
Point to your son, you say, well, there's your quarterback. This is the version nobody's put together before. So don't skip a single second of this video, and if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. Let that sink in for a second. Let what you just heard actually land. Because what those veterans, those analysts, those former players just said out loud on national television, that's not new information. That's not breaking news. That's something every real fan watching this kid has been screaming into the void for the last 2 years. And now finally, the people with the platforms and the rings and the credibility are starting to say the quiet part loud. Shedeur Sanders has been telling the truth the whole time. And the league is the one that's been lying. Let me walk you through this, because the journey of this young man is borderline absurd when you actually lay it out flat. Here's a kid who plays college football under his own father, a Hall of Famer, a legend, and somehow that becomes the reason to disrespect him. Think about that. His dad points at him in a press conference, says, there's your quarterback, and the entire football media universe loses its mind. Nepotism, handout, stunt, that's what they called it. That's what they actually called it. While Shedeur was out there breaking school records and getting hit more than any quarterback in college football. While Deion was cutting 70 players from that Colorado locker room because they wouldn't buy in. 70, not 7. 70 grown men got sent walking because they didn't match the standard this kid was already setting at 21 years old. And then the draft happens, and the league does what the league does. They humiliate him. Round 1 passes, round 2, round 3. The cameras are on his face, the whole world is watching, and he slides all the way to the fifth round. Behind quarterbacks he was statistically better than, behind names you couldn't pick out of a lineup. And the same media that built him up spent draft night pretending they couldn't find his tape. They called it nepotism, he kept working. They called it a handout, he kept working. They called it a stunt, he kept working. And now look around, look at what's happening right now in real time. Myles Garrett, the most feared pass rusher on the planet, is dapping him up on the sideline. NFL veterans are quietly telling reporters this kid is different. Analysts who spent draft season trashing him are suddenly breaking down his footwork like he's the second coming. The whispers inside that Cleveland locker room, they're not whispers anymore. They're conversations, out loud, on camera, and the league is scrambling. So let me be straight with you before we go any further. This video isn't a feel-good underdog story. This isn't some sappy redemption clip. This is a receipt drop. Every single person who buried this kid is about to get tagged in the comments by their own old takes. So stay with me, because what's coming next, cable TV won't touch it, but you and I, we're going there. Now let's talk about something that doesn't add up. Something that the more you stare at it, the less sense it makes. Shedeur Sanders is officially listed as the 4th quarterback on the Cleveland Browns depth chart. 4th. Behind a journeyman, behind a guy nobody outside of Cleveland could pick out of a lineup, behind a rookie who got drafted ahead of him for reasons the league still can't explain with a straight face. And yet, somehow, someway, this kid sitting at QB4 is the only name anyone in football is actually talking about. Tell me how that math works. Go ahead, I'll wait. Because here's what's wild. Cleveland is a franchise that has burned through more quarterbacks than they've had winning seasons. They've thrown contracts, draft picks, and entire rebuilds at the position and come up empty every single time. And now they've got a kid who slid 5 rounds down the board, walking into their building with more eyes on him than their entire offensive line combined. Browns fans, and I've been all over the comment sections, I've been in the replies, I've been in the group chats, they're calling that preseason game their Super Bowl. Read that again. Their Super Bowl, that's not fan talk, that's not exaggeration. That's a fan base that has been starving for 2 decades suddenly seeing something they recognize. Hope. Real, breathing, throw the ball on a rope hope. And meanwhile, what's the media doing? Hedging, qualifying, caveating every single compliment with a "but it's just preseason." Tell me the last time a 4th-string quarterback got a full breakdown on every major network for 2 days straight. Tell me, you can't, because it doesn't exist. Guys with Super Bowl rings, guys with credibility you can't buy, are sitting on podcasts dropping his name in sentences they were not paying attention to 9 months ago. And don't even get me started on the Pro Bowl conversation from earlier. Yeah, the stats weren't all pro: 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, 10 picks. I'm not gonna pretend that's a Hall of Fame line. But the fact that he's even in that conversation as a rookie who hasn't started a regular season game tells you everything about the cultural gravity this kid carries. Names move the Pro Bowl, and his name moves mountains. Which brings us back to the depth chart. Why fourth? Be honest with yourself. Was that earned or was that a message? Because front offices don't just rank quarterbacks, they send signals, they protect egos, they manage rooms, and sometimes they bury talent on purpose to see if it'll stay buried. Spoiler alert, this one won't. So I'll leave you with this. If Shedeur Sanders really isn't that guy, if he's really just a name, just a stunt, just hype, then somebody please explain why every microphone, every camera, every veteran interview in the entire NFL keeps circling right back to him. Go ahead, try. Now let's stop being polite about this. Let's actually talk about what this kid has had to absorb, because every single rookie quarterback in the NFL deals with pressure. Every single one, but Shedeur Sanders, he's been walking through a hailstorm that nobody else in this draft class would have survived. And the wildest part, he hasn't flinched once, not on camera, not in a press conference, not on the field, so let's pull up the receipts. Start with the nepotism garbage. The same media that begged for access to his dad for 30 years suddenly decided that being Deion Sanders' son was a disqualifier. Make that make sense. Then came the 5th round slide, and even the neutral analysts, even the guys who didn't ride for him in college, came out after the draft and said it was wrong. They said it on the record. Some of them used the word collusion in the NFL. Around a 5th round rookie quarterback. That's not a small accusation. That's not Twitter noise. That's grown men with credentials saying out loud that something wasn't right about how this kid fell. Then the hamstring tweak in the preseason, instantly weaponized. Suddenly he's fragile. Suddenly he's soft. After one of the cleanest preseason performances any rookie put on tape this year. And the hypocrisy is what really gets me. These are the exact same media voices who spent 2 full years telling us this kid was a top 10 talent. Top 10. They had him going in the 1st round on every mock draft for 18 months straight. Then draft week hits and all of a sudden they can't find his game film. They can't remember his stats. They can't recall a single throw. Where did all that goes? Where did the breakdowns go? Where did the praise go? It evaporated the second they realized which storyline was gonna get more clicks. And imagine being him for a second. Imagine being a kid whose last name guarantees that you'll never ever get graded fairly. Every interception gets replayed 40 times. Every completion gets dismissed as just preseason. Every photo of him in a fit on Instagram becomes a referendum on his work ethic. He can't even breathe without somebody turning it into a debate segment. And inside that locker room, you think the veterans walked in handing him roses. Reports were already swirling, guys questioning whether he could lead grown men, whispers that his dad's shadow was too big, side conversations about whether the hype was real. But here's what they don't understand. Every single one of those obstacles is exactly what's forging him into something nobody saw coming. The doubt is the fire, the disrespect is the fuel, the isolation is the proof. And while they keep piling on, keep stacking the criticism, keep cooking the narratives, Shedeur just keeps doing the one thing they can't take from him. He stays silent, he stays focused, and he lets the football scream on his behalf. And honestly, it's getting deafening. Alright, take a breath, because now I want to show you something different, something the highlight shows aren't framing the right way, something happening behind the cameras, behind the press conferences, behind the noise inside that Cleveland locker room. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because what's quietly unfolding around Shedeur Sanders right now, it's not a moment, it's a takeover, and it started weeks before the rest of us caught on. Let's start with that Myles Garrett moment on the sideline. The cameras caught it. Most people scrolled past it. They saw a friendly dap and moved on. But pause and actually think about what that conversation was. Shedeur, a 5th round rookie listed as QB4, walked up to the most feared defensive player in the entire NFL and asked him if his spin move would work on him. That's not a fanboy question. That's not a rookie trying to fit in. That is a competitor eye-to-eye with a future Hall of Famer sizing him up. And Myles Garrett didn't brush him off. He engaged, he laughed, he talked to him like a peer. Veterans of that caliber don't waste oxygen on guys they don't respect. They just don't. That dap was a handshake between 2 men who already see each other clearly. And it's not just Myles. Training camp reports have been almost embarrassingly positive. Coaches are noticing the pre-snap communication. The way he steps up to the line, points out coverages, calms his receivers before the ball is even snapped. They're talking about how he commands a huddle filled with guys he hadn't taken full reps with, guys older than him, guys with starts under their belt, and how nobody questions who's in charge when his hands are on the ball. That's not normal for a rookie. That's a presence, and that calmness in dirty pockets, the way he resets his feet with pressure in his face, that's not luck. That's the residue of being the most pressured quarterback in all of college football last season. He didn't learn poise from a clipboard. He learned it from getting hit every Saturday for 3 straight years and still delivering strikes. Now look off the field. Every press conference, every interview, every social media trap, reporters trying to bait him into a soundbite, and he sidesteps it like a veteran. Because this kid was raised inside the storm. He grew up at the eye of a hurricane. The NFL noise, it barely registers. And teammates are quietly saying it. They're telling reporters off the record that the work ethic isn't a show. It isn't a brand play. It's just who he is at 6 in the morning when nobody's watching. So understand what's actually happening here. This isn't a flash. This isn't preseason hype. This is the early pages of a takeover. And legends are never crowned. They emerge, slowly, then all at once. So here's where I stop arguing with you. Here's where I stop trying to convince you. Because some things you don't debate, you declare. And I'm about to declare something right now that I want you to screenshot. I want you to save this clip. I want you to come back to it in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years. Because years from now, when Shedeur Sanders is whatever he's destined to become, a franchise quarterback, a Super Bowl name, a face of the entire league, you're going to remember exactly where you were during this preseason. You're going to remember the depth chart drama. You're going to remember the 5th round insult. You're going to remember every single take that aged like milk in the sun. And you're going to be glad you were on the right side of it. So let me say it plain. Cleveland just stumbled into their first real franchise quarterback in 25 years. Read that again, 25 years. The Browns have been a quarterback graveyard since the team came back into the league, and somehow in a 5th round pick they didn't even believe in themselves. They accidentally found the guy. He'll be starting by midseason. Mark it down, write it on the wall, tag me when it happens. And loop it all back, everything we talked about, the nepotism accusations that opened this whole story. The 70 players Deion cut at Colorado because they wouldn't match the standard. The leapfrog into the Pro Bowl conversation that had analysts losing their minds. The 5th round slide that smelled like collusion. The QB4 label that's already starting to crack. All of it, every single chapter of this saga was setting up this exact moment. This kid was built for this. He wasn't manufactured. He wasn't gifted. He was raised in pressure. He was marinated in doubt. He was trained by a Hall of Famer who never, not one single time, let him take a play off. You don't accidentally produce a quarterback like this. You forge one. So here's what I need from you. Drop a comment right now. Tell me your week 1 prediction. Tell me what jersey he's wearing on the field. Tell me what the box score looks like. And then share this video with the hater in your group chat, the one who's been laughing at him since the draft, the one who keeps texting 5th round every time his name comes up. Send it to them. Let them watch this. Because the next chapter of this story is already being written, and you, my friend, you've got front row seats. So remember this moment. Remember where you were when the rest of the league was still sleeping on him, because the kid from Jackson State to Colorado to Cleveland is not finished. They tried to bury him. They tried to silence him. They tried to box him in. He's not done, not even close.